Street Talk and other stuff. Thanks for tuning in today. Mike Mad Dog Magnati. I appreciate you coming to us on this Monday morning, and those of you who are watching later in the week, appreciate you taking the time to tune in. I hope you had a good Easter. We did. Most significant event in human history, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, is what we celebrated, and I hope you had a good day yesterday, and I hope you have a great week. Now look, I have got a show today I've been looking forward to doing for quite some time. There's a lot of stuff going on in our community right now concerning the deportation, issues that the DJT administration has brought on. And the woman I have coming on today, Rachel Pashkowski, have I got it, Rachel? Pashkowski, okay. She's corrected me about 10 times. Is with the Wenatchee for Immigrant Justice Project, and have I got that right?
More or less, yeah.
More or less, okay. So, but this is good stuff, because there's stuff going on in our community that I want you to know about and possibly get involved in and help out. But we're going to come back, talk to Rachel in a minute, so stick around. Street Talk and other stuff. We will be right back.
Celebrate Apple Blossom with the Stamilk Grand Parade Saturday, May 3rd at 11 a.m. on the NCWLIFE channel. Coverage is brought to you in part by our Platinum supporter, Alpine Air Heating and Cooling. Also by Aging and Adult Care of Central Washington, Boswell's Home Furnishings, Harvest Valley Pest Control, Mary Mays, Together for Youth, and the Wenatchee Valley Dispute Resolution Center. Watch the Stamilk Grand Parade Saturday, May 3rd on your local TV station, the NCWLIFE channel.
Hi, I'm Amanda Walden with A. Walden Insurance Group. Medicare can be overwhelming, but you don't have to figure it out alone. I've been helping people understand their Medicare options for over a decade. Medicare isn't a one-size-fits-all. I'll help you understand your coverage options so you can feel confident in your decisions. Let's find the right Medicare plan for you. Call me today or come and see me at my office located on South Chelan Avenue in Wenatchee between the YMCA and the Social Security office. I look forward to meeting you soon.
The family at the Eplodolin want to help your loved one feel at ease in their new home environment. Eplodolin offers beautiful one-bedroom and studio apartments. Residents enjoy 3 delicious home-style meals a day, laundry service, housekeeping service, and encouragement to make themselves cozy in their new home. Eplodolin welcomes your family to come and visit their family. Eplodolin, independent and assisted living. They make the complicated easy for you. Call today for a tour.
When you enjoy Abby's Pizza at your place, close your eyes and you can taste old-fashioned values, classic pizza parlor decor, and generations of tradition. Recreate that magic. Open your eyes and head to abbys.com. With pickup and delivery options, no matter where you dine, Abby's just tastes better. This is Skinny, and he helped found Abby's 60 years ago. In honor of Skinny, we're putting his favorite pizza on sale. Savory pizza sauce, Canadian bacon piled to the edge, and juicy tomatoes make this a very special pizza. Order your Skinny special right now at abbys.com.
Okay, we're back. Street Talk and other stuff, and I want to introduce my new friend, Rachel. Rachel, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Thanks for being here. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I'm very much looking forward to it. So before we start talking about what you do, which is very important, just a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Rachel Pashkowski.
Pashkowski, good, okay.
I am a resident of Wenatchee for the last 20 years. Before that, in North Central Washington for several years. Graduated from high school in Leavenworth.
Okay. So you know John Mauser?
I do.
Do you? John and I are friends.
Yeah,
okay,
he taught me at pre-calculus.
Yeah, okay.
Wrote me a recommendation for college.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. John's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a very good guy. Yeah. So what else? I have 3 kids.
Okay.
I have a dog. I have a husband. My husband works at the college, and I really like living here in the area.
Oh,
it's a beautiful area.
Yeah. Now, you weren't originally from here. You're telling me off camera that you were originally
so I was
from
born
California.
in California. So born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then we moved here when I was in high school. My grandfather was on the town council in Leavenworth in the late 70s, early 80s.
All right.
My grandparents lived up there, and he had passed away, and so we moved up here to be closer to my grandmother.
Okay, I understand.
So, yeah.
Okay, so tell us about what you do. Now, I ran into Rachel a few weeks ago. There was a meeting after one of the gatherings we had at Memorial Park about immigration issues and stuff that's going on with our country right now. And then there was a meeting afterwards of the local Democrats, which is funny because I'm not one and never have been. But Rachel spoke, and I was very impressed with not only what she said, but her passion for this particular subject. So you're on.
Great. So I'm a coordinator with Wenatchee for Immigrant Justice. I'm a volunteer. We're a grassroots organization, and we advocate for equity and justice and opportunity for immigrants in our area.
Okay.
And I've been doing this work since about 2021, but before that this is my 26th year, I think, with Columbia Legal Services as a paralegal.
Which legal services?
Columbia Legal Services as a paralegal.
Yeah, okay.
And I've mostly been doing agricultural labor support.
Okay.
So support for agricultural labor and complex litigation for that amount of time. So my history of doing immigrant advocacy is much longer than my time with WIDGE.
Okay.
So up until my kids graduated from high school, one of them had special needs and an IEP, and so I spent a lot more time advocating in the education arena for their needs. But they graduated from high school, and so I decided I had some time to take on other issues in the community.
Okay.
And immigration has always been dear to my heart. So I reached out to Wenatchee for Immigrant Justice and just started doing various administrative tasks for them. And then they welcomed me onto the coordinating committee, and I've been doing that ever since.
All right, well, why was this something that was important to you? I mean, do you speak Spanish by any
I do
chance?
speak Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Su español es muy bueno.
Sí.
Okay.
Hablo español más o menos bien.
Okay, mi español no es muy bueno. Yo entiendo muy poco. So, all right, but what was it that prompted you? Why was this an issue for you?
Well, so I guess I like to think back to my early life and to say that I was born with an overdeveloped sense of what's fair and what's right.
Okay, where did that come from?
No idea.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good though. Okay.
But I've always been concerned about what's fair and what's right. When I was a kid, I was always the kid adjusting the rules for the game so that all the kids who were playing could have an equal opportunity to win.
You were that woman.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was that person,
girl.
from a very early age.
Okay.
So I went to work at Columbia Legal Services, and it was a temporary job. And they offered me a permanent job, and I said, okay, I'll stay for a year because I really want to go travel, and then I met my husband.
Okay.
But the longer I started to work with immigrants, and the longer I saw how difficult it is to become a citizen, how difficult it is to live under a system that systematically excludes you.
Right.
That where there's no support. I mean, we all know that when you are living below the poverty line or at the poverty line or even just above the poverty line, it doesn't take very much to throw you off and really ruin your life.
Right.
But when even the supports that are available to folks in those in that kind of economic arena are not available to you, it's really there's no margin for error.
Yeah.
There's no margin for anything, and it just didn't seem fair to me.
Okay. What was it primarily that what wasn't fair? What were you seeing that was happening with this particular group of people that you said, hey, we need to fix this? I mean, not just access to services, right? But
Right. Well, so that's a big question, and it's got a lot of big answers.
Yeah.
What was the thing? I can't say that there was like a seminal moment where I said, oh, this is the thing that has to be fixed.
All right. Okay.
So I would say that a lot of little things happen along the way. To see that, for instance, it's so much easier to be exploited for your labor, to suffer from wage theft. I represented, I didn't represent, we represented once or helped a woman represent herself in small claims court. And she had been working for this employer for years.
Yeah.
And she was entitled to overtime. And when she asked for the overtime, he suddenly asked for an I-9 form.
Ah, okay. So he's playing.
And then when she didn't sign the I-9, she was fired.
Okay.
And all she wanted was to be paid the wage that she was entitled to be paid.
Okay.
I think everyone can agree that if you perform labor for a price, you should get that price.
You would hope everyone would agree, but evidently her employer didn't agree with that. And it's sad to say there are people with that attitude.
Yeah. And so we helped her prepare a claim for small claims court, and she went to small claims. And when she came back, she had been awarded the payment.
Right.
And the judge, and she said, the judge listened to me. And she wasn't expecting that. And I thought it was so sad that somebody who lives in our society would not expect the protection of our courts. Would not expect the protection of our legal system. And that really brings me to like what happened with WIDGE and how we got started as an organization. Now this was before I started with them, but the first time that Trump was elected president and immigration started to pick people up in the courthouses, which is what led to the Keep Washington Working law. But you know, then immigrants couldn't go in and pay a parking ticket. They couldn't go in, you know, they're trying to live here lawfully. Everybody makes mistakes, right? You know, so you could get a parking ticket that you needed to go pay, or you could get a traffic ticket that you needed to go pay. You know, everybody's had a moment where they didn't quite stop all the way to stop sign, or where they exceeded the speed by a little bit and they got a ticket. Well, people were getting picked up when they were going in to pay those tickets. And so it seems like that's a really harsh punishment for a small infraction that everybody...
And for trying to live a responsible life.
And try to be responsible and pay that. And so Wenatchee for Immigrant Justice really started as an accompaniment group to advise people about their rights before they went to the court, to advise them about their constitutional rights, and then to observe whatever was happening and to document it and publish it. And the documentation of those kinds of activities statewide is what led to the Keep Washington Working law.
All right, now I'm going to bring something up that, that's been an issue. This whole thing about the Trump administration playing fast and loose with due process. I saw a post on Facebook today that it just, I mean, they came in here without due process, so they don't deserve due process when we kick them out, See, this is the issue I'm having with a lot of this, that we're America. We're supposed to be the good guys, What good does it do when we start violating people's rights with the idea that these people are just illegal anyway? You hear what I'm asking?
Yeah, I have trouble with the phrase that these people are illegal.
Well, I know, that's not my, those aren't my words.
There are folks that have all kinds of status that are being affected by this. And also, like, the Supreme Court precedent and the 14th Amendment don't say only if you enter the United States legally. They say, if you're within our borders, you have a right to due process. Period. So I don't understand I guess I don't understand what the question people have about that. It's our constitutional right. And it seems strange to me that very often I hear a lot about originalist and textual, you know, no interpretation, just strictly what it says on the text with regards to the Second Amendment. But do we seldom hear that with regards to the Fourth or Fifth or First Amendment?
Sure. Okay, well, my question, the point I'm trying to make, the problem is that these folks, most of them who would claim to be strong constitutionalists, are now willing to deny the Constitution to people just because they don't like them. Now, I don't care. I can't remember the gentleman's name, the recent one that all the conflict about, who was deported.
Kilmar Abrego.
Okay, exactly. People are saying, well, he's actually a gangster, he's a bad person, and another friend of mine posted, well, if he comes back, he's illegal anyway. And my point is, look, it doesn't matter who he is or what would happen if he came back. He was deported without due process, and we are America.
And in direct violation of a court order stating that they should not be sending that plane in the first place.
And what bothers me is people's agreement with that there's people who like the fact that Trump is playing fast and loose with due process. I mean, what does that say to us about society? What does that say to us about Americans?
Well, I think the most disturbing thing, I think the most disturbing thing about that, what's the best way to say this? I think the most disturbing thing about people being happy that folks are playing fast and loose with the Constitution and our constitutional rights to due process is that if one person within the border doesn't have due process, then it's only a matter of redefining who has the rights until no one has the right.
Exactly.
So, I hate to, sort of employ the rhetorical slippery slope argument, but it is a slippery slope. And especially, when we look at the attack on our First Amendment rights, and we look at the attack on people for exercising their First Amendment rights, the rhetoric that's out there that to disagree with this administration is to be engaged somehow in insurrection, or, the rhetoric is so overblown.
Right, and it's actually the opposite, okay? To agree with this administration, you're moving into anarchy, I may not have the term properly right, but ignoring the Constitution?
Well, because the Constitution ultimately is a social contract. So if we're going to say that the Constitution doesn't matter, then what laws do matter?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now look, we need to take a break. Halfway through, talk with Rachel Pachowski. Did I get it right? Okay. You have to Pashkowski. Just reach over and smack me, okay?
Lots of people are thrown off by the second K.
Okay, all right. Well, this is a passionate topic for me, and forgive me for getting a little bit worked up. Just tell me to be quiet when it comes to that. But we need to take a break. Come back, talk to Rachel some more. But hey, street talk and other stuff. You stick around. We will be right back.
NCWLIFE's news team is keeping an eye on North Central Washington. Join us each weekday evening at 5, 6, and 10 for the NCWLIFE Evening News, with interviews, in-depth reporting, and the kind of insights you can't find anywhere else. We're the hometown news station for the Wenatchee Valley, the Cascade Foothills, and up and down the Columbia River. Thanks for watching NCWLIFE, proud to be part of the Washington State Apple Blossom Festival.
Spring into the good life. World-class wine, food, and hospitality meet on the shores of Lake Chelan. Chelan Cellars, bringing great wine, food, friends, and family together where vineyards and the good life bloom every spring.
Tipsy Canyon Winery has become the place to go for fine wine and unbelievable views of the Chelan Valley. Tipsy Canyon Winery is a year-round destination for wine lovers, so stay for the moment that becomes the memory at Tipsy Canyon Winery.
Merry Maids can clean your entire home, business, or vacation rental from top to bottom, inside and out. Merry Maids will even take care of cleaning your carpets, and they can pressure wash your home. Merry Maids has thousands of happy customers. They've been cleaning homes and businesses in our valley for over 25 years. Check out their glowing reviews at merrymaidesofwenatchee.com and call the cleaning experts, Merry Maids, to get your free estimate. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. So relax, it's done.
When you've been in business for 40 years, it's because you understand change and you put members first, always. Now Works is announcing a change in their membership model. Up to 6 people on one membership that you can mix and match. The more people, the bigger the discounts. Introducing the Works shared membership model. One membership, friends and family and flexibility. Works, the cleanest, friendliest, most helpful gyms you and your friends will ever join.
Okay, we're back. We're talking with Rachel with Wenatchee for Immigrant Justice.
Yes.
Okay.
No project, just Wenatchee for Immigrant Justice.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So,
all right. Let's talk about what services you offer, who your clients are, and I also want to know about the rapid response training that you do.
Okay.
Okay, if you can tell people what that is. So.
Sure. So rapid response is among the services that we offer. We provide, well, let's see here. So we have a community self-advocacy clinic where community members can come in and get assistance with doing a power of attorney that will provide a trusted friend or family member with their parental powers if they should not be able to assist their child by acting in the role of their parent.
Okay.
And that could happen for a number of reasons, right?
Okay.
Sudden illness, injury, detention,
Sure.
deportation. If you're the custodial parent of your child or the primary custodial parent of your child, you have the right to say if you're not able to act during your custodial time, who has that authority.
Okay, and you help people arrange that.
So we help people with, read and understand the form, fill it out. If they have family law questions, we refer them to the volunteer attorney services and other reliable family law resources. So we're not attorneys. But we do provide free notarial services for the
Okay.
documents. We also help people make arrangements for their, for a durable power of attorney for their property and finances. And we can notarize for free any document.
All right, good.
We also, during that time, help people apply for hospital charity care.
Okay.
So that's a right that people have to receive free or discounted hospital services if they meet certain income guidelines based on their family size.
Okay.
So we help them with that process, understanding what their rights are, knowing how to fill out the application, making copies of the necessary documentation, and submitting that for review. And then if they get denied the charity care, we also work with them to appeal that denial or refer them to legal services of the Department of Health.
All right,
So those are some of the services that we offer in person.
Sure.
We also offer some mutual aid to folks who have an immigration process that's happening for them to keep them in their stable in their homes. So we have a small rental assistance fund or utility assistance.
Okay.
And we also have a small fund that helps people who have had a financial emergency, like they've lost their job, to renew their immigration paperwork.
Okay. Do you connect with other agencies like Serve Wenatchee Valley or?
We work closely with Parque Padrinos, with Hand-in-Hand Immigration Services,
all right.
with the Center for Advancement of Families and Education, that's CAFE, and other immigrant-led organizations to receive referrals for those services.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And then in addition to that, we also coordinate the local rapid response and accompaniment teams.
Okay, and what is that?
These are teams of folks who are U.S. citizens, usually, or legal permanent residents who are willing to advise community members about their legal rights and due process rights, to go with them to places where, when they believe they're more likely to be detained or apprehended by immigration services. If they are, we document the process to ensure that their civil rights are being met. And then we will connect their families with community assistance. And that can include rental or utility assistance if the person who was detained was the primary wage earner.
Okay.
And so that's so that the kids, often who are U.S. citizens, don't wind up homeless or unaccompanied within our community. So we want families to stay together. We want children to be with their parents or with their close relatives and not in custody of foster care.
Yeah, because you're going to have people who are subject to deportation whose children are actual citizens.
Right.
So this is this is a horrendous possibility of these people being separated. So.
Well, it's really very sad and heart-wrenching to talk to parents about this, because while you're talking to them about, while you're separated from your child, if this happens, do you want to give, like if your child is injured, do you want this person to be able to seek medical treatment for them? If your child is, and the saddest part is always when we have to say, if your child is injured or so ill that doctors think that they should withdraw medical treatment, do you want your agent to be able to make that decision, or do you want the doctors to have to talk to you?
Okay.
And I would say the vast majority of parents want the doctors to have to talk to them.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, sure.
You know, what that would actually look like if a parent were in immigration detention, we're not sure.
Yeah.
But we're trying our best to make sure that parents have the most knowledge and authority and power that they can, and also that their children are not being left in a vulnerable position in the custody of the state.
Okay.
That's expensive for everybody. It's terrifying for the children, and it subjects them to further trauma, especially if a foster care placement can't be found where they can stay together.
Yeah. Now, do you have any stories you could tell without being specific about identities, about people you've been able to help, that things that have worked out for them, or even the tragic stories if you want to, so people understand what the reality of some of this and what's going on is?
Yeah, I know that stories are powerful, and I like to be careful about how I tell the stories, because I want to protect people's privacy and children's privacy. What I can say is that we've seen across the state a number of arrests that took place that were quite violent, that took place in the presence of people's children, where people were not presented with a warrant. They didn't know who the people were who were taking them. We saw one right here in Wenatchee. Oh
yeah, showing the picture of people without uniforms, and I guess they're displaying badges, but...
Well, one of them had a badge on, but the one that was taking the man into custody did not have a badge. If you watch that video closely, you'll see that he did not have a badge. Yeah. And he refused to identify himself, and he refused to provide a warrant to the family or to the individual himself.
Like I said, I used to be a cop, okay? All right, and I know local police do not get involved in this, okay? They're not allowed to, and they don't want to tell you the truth. But we had to play by the rules.
Right.
Okay? And when you go fast and loose without them, it's...
Yeah, well, and the other thing was, so when I was on the rapid response team that day, by the time I got to the market, and the individual who was detained had already left with the immigration agents. But I can tell you that when I got there, there were at least 5 Wenatchee Police Department and 1 Sheriff's Department vehicles there, plus a fire engine, plus there were 2 ambulances on scene. And this is because nobody knew what was happening, and a bystander had called 911. Yeah. And if you'll recall, in the article that Dominic Bonney ran, Sheriff Morrison was quoted as saying this concerned him about blue-on-blue violence, right? If somebody grabbed my husband and dragged him into the back of a car, I would call 911. I would say my husband is being kidnapped.
Sure, of course. And these guys have got... We're Americans. We're supposed to be the good guys. We have to play by the rules.
Right. And if these actions are being performed legally and they're being performed properly, there should be no reason for immigration to be arresting people in this country wearing masks. There should be no reason for people arresting folks without a warrant. Right. There should be no reason to not identify yourself if you're doing what's legal and you're proud of what you're doing.
Yes.
There should be no reason for that.
Exactly.
And I believe that on their website, CBP in that instance posted that they had been following this gentleman for some time. Well, why did they arrest him in the manner they did, in the place they did, at the date and time they did?
Sure.
To me, that seems clear that they're intending to spread fear in the community, that they're intending to show that they don't have to comply with the laws, that they're above the law or outside the law. Right. And that is, that's really disturbing. We should not have a police force that is permitted to do that in this country.
We have had, in not my lifetime, but just prior to my lifetime, another social organization or government that practiced that way. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, and so do you, okay? All right, but let's go off topic a little bit, okay? This issue of, because we only got like a minute or two.
Okay.
This idea of something the Trump administration is promoting about starting to deport actual citizens, the people who were born here, denying that citizenship right to them. Your brief opinion on that? I mean, that to me is horrific.
Well, again, I don't think the 14th, I think the 14th Amendment is very clear, and the judge that made the initial order in that over in Seattle made it, said it's ridiculous to think that the law doesn't mean what it says on its face, right? And that's, a lot of people have an interesting idea about how the courts work here, but basically, the laws are written, and then the courts are supposed to defer to what the law says on its face. Right. And if what the law says on its face isn't clear, then they do an examination of what the context means, or what the intention is, and what the precedent is. Yeah. So we have the statute, and then we have the common law, the case law that interprets that statute.
Sure.
But there's really not very much room for interpretation in the 14th Amendment.
No, there's not.
Everyone who's born here
is a citizen.
Yeah. And so I just, it's confounding to me and quite concerning that, the Trump administration is now floating the suggestion that citizens can be deported without due process. And the question in my mind is, do they really mean that citizens should be able to be deported without due process? That citizenship should be undone? Or do they mean to make it seem acceptable that they are doing this to immigrants by inflating the rhetoric to include citizens?
And what bothers me almost...
So is what happening with immigration a stepping stone to a more draconian system? Or is the more draconian system used to make us reconciled to what's happening over here?
Okay.
Don't know.
Okay, we're talking with Rachel Paszkowski. Okay, she's with Wenatchee for Immigrant Justice, doing great work. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And yeah, my pleasure. And you. Thanks for tuning in today. Street Talk and other stuff. Appreciate you being here. Bye-bye.